So, who is the first question from, Moni?
All right, so the first question is from Olgrim Fastfang.
Yep.
He has a few questions about basically the Titan Keepers and the Titans in general.
Okay.
So, the first one is, could Helia and Helheim's curse have been created by Odin to stop her from reaching Avaloren if she chose to go there of her own volition? These
Okay.
are all tied to the existence of Avaloren and how we know that there are those Titan constructs that, basically that abandoned the Titans, more or less.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah. All right, so the first thing with Helia, I think a lot of what happened around Helia was sort of like an accident. It wasn't meant to happen exactly in that way. And we know this because Odin himself, when he locked Helia inside Helheim, somehow got himself locked inside the Halls of Valor. He could not leave the Halls of Valor either, as a result of him locking Helia within Helheim. So I don't think much of it. I think a lot of it was a Titan Keeper playing with tools that he himself did not necessarily understand. That's the first thing I'll say about that. Now, Helia's story is interesting. Helia's creation was purely because Odin wanted an army for himself. Hence why he created Helheim, and Helheim was meant to house the Valajar, as well as the... what are they called now? These people. Literally, humans are...
The Vrykul?
The Vrykul, thank you. Jesus, couldn't get to that name. But it was meant to house the Vrykul. So effectively what he did when he created Helheim was when Vrykul die, instead of their essence disappearing or instead of their essence going into the Shadowlands or wherever Vrykul would go upon their death, they would go to Helheim. And he, of course, would keep the strongest warriors for the Halls of Valor, and then everyone else would just sort of chill in Helheim. And the idea here was it's his own personal army. Now, of course, we know that in order to do this, Odin had to strike a number of deals. And one of those deals was with Muazala. He gave his eye for the ability to see into the Shadowlands. And most likely, what he wanted to see inside the Shadowlands was exactly how does it operate. That's just sort of my guess, because we never actually got told why he struck this deal with Muazala. We know that Muazala then consequently struck a deal with Zuval and gave Odin's eye to Zuval to create the Eye of the Maw. But I think Odin gave his eye because he wanted to get a sneak peek at the inner workings of the Shadowlands. Because ultimately, the Shadowlands is a giant mechanism. It's not natural. What happens within the Shadowlands isn't natural. And this granted him the ability to see how does this mechanism function. And then he built his own mechanism like this. And the story of Helia, very, very sad for those of you that don't know it. Odin effectively... he graped Helia into this. That's literally the best word. Even though it wasn't like proper graping, he did do it. Like, Helia did not want to be his queen of the underworld. She was his daughter, so to speak. She was literally his second in command. And he asked her if she would do it. She said, no, I don't want to be the queen of the underworld. And then he just forced her into it. He just literally forced himself upon her, killed her and pushed her into Helheim. Congratulations, you're now the queen of the underworld.
Yeah, made her the very first Valkyr. After seeing the Kyrian and how they function, he wanted that so that he could, yoink his people before the Kyrian could.
Exactly. He wanted to make sure that he could bring his warriors before the Kyrian could take them. That's why the Valajar look very similar to the Kyrians. That's why it's a very similar sort of look, because effectively their job is similar. It's the same thing.
Personally, I wonder if he stopped at Bastion. Like, as far as what he looked into, he just looked at Bastion. Let's just say the order that we do the questing in Shadowlands is like the order that the realms somehow are visible, and that would mean that Bastion is like the first level that you can gaze into. Maybe he just saw Bastion, assumed that was the Shadowlands entire, and just saw the Valajar and was like, that is what I need.
Well, I think the idea originally, because if you look at Helheim, it technically should have operated very, very similarly to Maldraxxus and Revendreth. It was supposed to be this place where even if you're not good enough to be in the Halls of Valor, you join the armies of Helheim. But you're still part of... Because the whole point of Helheim wasn't to be the enemy of Odin. Odin didn't want to create Helheim as sort of the opposite of him and a realm that stands in opposition to him. It was just supposed to be, if you're a bad Vrykul, you get sent to Helheim. If you're a good Vrykul, you come to the Halls of Valor to be part of his personal army. But effectively, it is building two different armies. An army filled with bad people, probably meant or willing to do bad things, and then an army built with honorable people to do honorable things, as Odin saw it. Of course, Odin did not foresee that by forcing Helia to become the first Valajar, he effectively created one of his greatest enemies, and therefore the entire Helheim stands in opposition to him. Now, of course, with the death of Helia...
Well, I think she was just banished, not...
Yeah, well, when I say death, I just mean with her removal from Helheim. I don't know how Helheim is going to operate now within that. We know Odin is finally free. Like, he can now move around. He doesn't have to stay inside Helheim anymore, or inside the Halls of Valor anymore. But I would say it is just a happy accident. And again, we know the Titans have made those accidents or have made those mistakes in the past. Gahun is a very good example of this. And it comes as a result of playing with things that you do not understand, right? Because if you think about something like the Shadowlands, this is a system, a mechanical system that was created by the first ones, beings that are infinitely more intelligent than Odin. And yet, Odin decides, in his very limited wisdom, to try and copy that system. But with his own limitations, it makes it nigh impossible for him to get it right. He doesn't perfect it. He makes a bastardized version of it. And that comes with just a string of mistakes. Yeah, sorry?
Yeah, I wonder if... Oh, I was going to say, I wonder if part of the, copying, the imperfect copy, is that he could only attract or grab Vrykul. But knowing Odin, he probably just thought the Vrykul were the only ones worth grabbing.
I mean, technically speaking, the Vrykul was constructs made by him for a very specific reason, right? They were his constructs, and he only really cared for them. We know Odin has very little love for mortals. We know he hates the dragons because he did not sign off on the dragon aspect being created. So it is possible that for Odin, the Vrykul is just these people. He wouldn't have wanted the mortals anywhere near him. And him working with the mortals during Legion really was just necessary. He just had to.
Really desperate.
Yeah, I mean, he's been captured and locked inside the Halls of Valor for such a long time, and here comes mortals, which is the only people that can actually save him. Right? Because we're not bound by this betrayal. We can actually venture into Helheim, and we can defeat Helia. So, yeah, I'm not sure if it was some master plan. I think it was just an accident, because Odin is a moron. That's basically where I would go with it. I don't think it was some master plan to become part of Avaloren or to reach Avaloren. The fact of the matter is, it's far more likely that the creation of the Vrykul was to reach Avaloren. Because remember, Avaloren is where the heretics went, and sort of after they realized that the Titans had lied, the heretics escaped and sailed to Avaloren, and there, no matter how many people the Titans threw, or keepers, the constructs the Titans threw at Avaloren, they could never actually get in. No one ever returned from Avaloren. So the truth is, I personally think that's what Odin was trying to do. He was trying to create sort of like an infinite army. If you think about the Lich King, that's what Zval did as well. The idea was that you create an infinite army. An army that is dead cannot die, and will eventually overrun you, because it doesn't matter how many times you kill it. It just raises its own, then raises your dead, and they become more. Right? So Odin's idea here was, I have my constructs, the Vrykul, that I can send to Avaloren. When they die in Avaloren, I can literally just raise them again inside the Halls of Valor and send them again. So it would become this constant, just wave after wave after wave of Vrykul that would smash against the, call it the walls of Avaloren, until they finally broke through. He did not imagine that he would get screwed by Helia. Right? That was never the plan. So we may actually see Odin feature in this expansion as well if we head to Avaloren. He may actually show up as well. So
I hope so.
Yeah. Just a very quick thing. Minnie, by the way, thanks for the first time chat. Really appreciate that. If you have questions for me, please ask those questions in Discord. If you ask it in chat, since chat is moving, by the time I'm done answering the question, I may have missed like 3 or 4 different questions. Whereas if you ask it in Discord in the Q&A section, we have it on record. So even if I don't get to your question immediately, I can get to it next week or, whenever. So during the Q&A, it's better if you ask it in Discord. And then, of course, if you want to ask your question in person, because maybe you want to disagree with me, or you want to have a debate with me, or just a discussion with me, jump into the voice channel. I always love meeting you guys and just hanging out and sort of chatting. But by the way, Olgrim, Fast Fan, thank you so much for the question, dude. Really appreciate that. And I hope the answer made a little bit of sense.